Yeah, yeah. We had Cleopatra, the ruler of the roost. She didn't have her snake with her. That's good. Right. All right, let's begin. We'll call the meeting to order. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Just to let everybody know, Councillor Lucy Stoyles, who's also the Avalon Director with Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador, will be missing today. She has already headed out to the West Coast to Corner Brook to attend board meetings there before the annual conference this coming weekend, which I believe a majority of us from Mount Pearl will be attending in the West Coast city. So she won't be with us today. So if anything comes up that requires her effort, we'll seek the alternate from the list in front of us. First thing is a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Tessier, seconded by Deputy Mayor Locke. Any additions to the agenda? Call it. All in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion carried. No other items accepted on the agenda other than those which are listed. We'll move now to the minutes of our public meeting of October the 18th. I'll accept a motion that the minutes be accepted as presented. Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Are there any errors or omissions? Errors or omissions from the meeting of October 18th? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. Business arising from the minutes of the meeting of the 18th. Business arising. Any from anybody? How efficient are we getting? We're missing Paul. We're missing Paul Lane.
He could put at least a half an hour into the meeting.
He could move it up for us there on that. Hearing none, we'll move along. The next item is proclamations, presentations. We have only one this week, Council. There's no one here to speak to it. I'm merely going to read it into the record and then sign it accordingly, and advise the Association of Newfoundland and Labrador Archives of our signature. It is referencing Archives Week, which is coming up November 14th to 20th, and it reads as follows. Whereas the work of archives is essential to preserve and make accessible the records of our community which may otherwise be lost, and whereas the citizens of Mount Pearl should be aware of the work which archives undertake, shouldn't that say archivist, undertake, and aware of how to access their services, and whereas the city recognizes the importance of archival work and welcomes its celebration, therefore, I, Randy Sims, Mayor of Mount Pearl, do hereby declare November 14th to 20th, 2011, as Archives Week in the city of Mount Pearl. I encourage all citizens of the city to explore local archives throughout this period and educate themselves about the significant role of archives in our community. And that is signed this first day of November 2011. And we will return this to Jenny Seaman, President of the Association of Newfoundland and Labrador Archives. And I would think for Mount Pearlers, one of the things that they would want to seek out and have a look at would be all the great things up at Admiralty House.
Yes.
If nothing else. All right, that's the. We have no other correspondence. We are moving on to our Public Works Committee. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Worship. The first item just deals with the Remembrance Day ceremonies, which of course will be taking place on November 11th. We've already reviewed the request from the Royal Canadian Legion. Of course, part of the ceremonies, other than the importance of the wreath laying, is the actual parade itself, and I believe already our municipal police have been contacted, and of course they'll escort the public and the parade route all along the route. So just for information purposes, and of course we will need the support of council to approve that, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Any question or comment? How many of us will actually be attending the wreath laying that morning?
Wouldn't miss it.
I won't be there, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, you won't be able to make it. I just want council to know that we're going to do something that I promised to do last year. Happened last year at the wreath laying after we attended a little reception that the Legion host, that we were going to take the Youth of the Year to lunch. We're going to take the Youth of the Year and their parents to lunch that day. And I'm inviting councillors, obviously, to join us for that. Right? The parents, Youth of the Year, you've got these great kids, and they win all these awards, but the parents never get anything out of it, you know? So I'm saying the least we can do is give them a burger. That's kind of where we're coming from. And I was talking to both of them here today, so we're going to do that on the 11th. Everybody come. Do we need a motion on this, or is this
I think
Does
we
this require a
normally
motion?
do approve the parade route. And
We got to approve it. The motion then is moved and seconded. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Hey, Your Worship, we called tenders for 3 dump body trucks for our Public Works Department. We had 4 bids. All were qualified bids, and we're recommending that the low bid, which is Country Trailer Sales, who submitted a bid of $42,680.10, be awarded the contract, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
And finally, I have a notice of motion, and I'll read that. And of course, as a notice, we won't debate it or discuss it, but put through the motion for the awareness of members of council. In accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act 1988 and Council's public notification policy, take note that I will, at a regular meeting of council, on the authority of Section 278 of the City of Mount Pearl Act, bring forward a motion to amend the current garbage regulations as follows. Section 17 currently reads, the containers of garbage shall be placed by the owner of the premises for collection not earlier than 6 o'clock in the forenoon of the day of collection. Change to, the containers of garbage shall be placed by the owner of the premises for collection not earlier than 6 o'clock in the forenoon of the day of collection. However, the containers of garbage may be placed to the curb, by the owner of the premises after 6 p.m. on the evening prior to the scheduled collection day, providing a container approved by the city is used as outlined in Section 2, subsection 4 of these regulations. Section 2 adds, subsection 4, for the purpose of Section 17, the container must be 95 U.S. gallons or 360 liters, with a width of 34 and 3/8 inches, a depth of 25 and 1/8 inch, and a height of 44 and a half inches, and be able to accommodate the use of cart tipper. This is dated the 20th of October 2011. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For Public Works.
I'm looking forward to us. That's
That'll be a
using.
big change for us.
Hmm?
That'll be a big change.
Well, I think we should encourage residents. Yeah, we'll talk about. We're not supposed to do it now. We're not supposed to do it now.
Yeah.
Randy, Community Services is the next committee. Councilor Tessier.
The worst thing you can do is tell a politician that they can't talk
Can't
something.
talk about something today.
Don't talk about it. I'll tell you. The first item, of course, on our agenda is the Remembrance Day 11K road race. This race is going to start in Mount Pearl on the trailway off Commonwealth Avenue at the bottom of Glendale Avenue, and it's going to run right into Paradise. It's going to cross one street in Mount Pearl, and that's the at Corsan Drive. I believe it's going to cross another street in Paradise as well. So, of course, all safety precautions and emergency precautions are in place for this particular race, and we're recommending approval for the Remembrance Day 11K road race that's going to take place on Friday, November the 11th at 8 a.m. at the Mount Pearl section of the trailway off Commonwealth Avenue in the area that's listed, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by Deputy Mayor Locke. Any questions or comments?
Who's going?
Who's going to run it? Anybody here?
Not I.
Come on, I can hardly drive it.
11K, I need to stop and have lunch and have a nap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I thought one of you guys would run it.
I figured by the time I stopped and had lunch and had a nap, it'd be like,
Not too many years ago.
When you could do
the
it.
next day. That's right.
We're calling the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
And the next item is a little bit of good news for us now. Our Mount Pearl Marlins are at it again. They have had some success in the first 2 meets of their season. In Deer Lake on the weekend of October 14th to the 16th, 16 of the swimmers 14 years and younger, they raced for their very first meet of the season, and they actually won top team at this meet.
Very good.
Oh, it's fabulous, actually. And if you've ever been to a swim meet, which I have been and I have officiated, I can tell you this is no small accomplishment because the caliber of competition has gotten quite high. So I want to highlight some of the swimmers who should be recognized. That's Hannah Lewis, Dustin Button, Ryan Lindstedt, and Emma Holden. And of course, some of these swimmers achieved a personal best, which is also a very big deal for swimmers as well when you can beat your own time. And of course, during the same weekend, they had 17 swimmers involved in the East Coast qualifiers, as well as 50, in the 15 and over category in CBS. The Marlins won this meet as well. And of course, they had the highest average in the FINA points per swimmer. So congratulations again to Laura Pittman, Jacob House, Leslie Marie. I'm assuming that's supposed to be Leslie Marie Lahey. It is, isn't it? Leslie Marie Lahey. That's when you know you've been in the system quite some time. You can fill in the blanks on the last name. Kaylin Denine, Darcy Tucker, and Gavin Dyke. And this is just for council's information and for the information of the public, that you don't want to try and outrace any of these people in the water.
Congratulations to them. Is that all you have today in that report? Corporate Services, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. One item in the kit here is the invoices for approval, and we can see that we have 11 items there, and I move that the amount be accepted as presented.
It is moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Aker. Any question or comment regarding any of the invoices for approval, item 1 to 11? Anything particular to point out there? All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
I do have one other here, Your Worship, and that has to do with the M&L Annual Convention, November 2nd to the 5th. And the committee is recommending approval for our CAO to attend this conference, and again being held on the West Coast in Corner Brook from this Wednesday to Sunday, and I so move.
Moved and seconded, provided she's not going as Cleopatra, I suppose we could approve it. She might want to bring her snake. All those in favor?
Now, does that qualifier have to go with it?
Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Planning and Land Use, Councillor Aker.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have two items here. The first item is the request to subdivide 30 Mount Carson Avenue. This property is part of the Mount Carson Terrace Phase 3 subdivision, but it happens to be located on Mount Carson Avenue. And the subdivision itself, which is known as, or the street in the subdivision known as Macroon Place, is actually where this property is located, even though you do access it from Mount Carson Avenue. I guess it's a long-standing house that's been there. We've put in a development scheme and a subdivision scheme up there, and basically we're using the front of the lots on Macroon Place. In this particular lot will turn out to be the rear of the lot of this particular house, and the homeowner has asked basically if they could subdivide this lot, creating another access point onto Mount Carson Avenue. Ooh. And that's a bit problematic because the whole purpose of having Mount Carson, the development scheme for Mount Carson Phase 3, is essentially to limit the access points going onto Mount Carson. And I believe you would access it off via Dunluce Crescent, which would, all the traffic coming from that subdivision would enter onto there, right? So basically the committee is recommending that we don't approve the request for subdivision. It doesn't correspond with the approved development scheme. It's been Council's direction in the past that there be no more access points or additional traffic to be created in this area. And we're a little bit worried about creating a precedent. There are other lots in this area that could potentially be developed at the back. In fact, in July of 2010, Council would not allow a similar subdivision over on Erickson across the street. So we want to be consistent with what we've done in the past. So I move we reject the subdivision of the lot at 30 Mount Carson Avenue.
It is moved and seconded by the Deputy Mayor as the alternate on the committee. You're good with. Just a question, Councillor Ager. Yes. Can we, with a residential property like this, would it have been possible to approve a development and subdivision of the lot with a joint access agreement of some kind, like we would do with commercial property? Is that something that would have been, could have been?
Frontage is a problem.
We perhaps could, but it wouldn't. The key here is we're trying to limit the access points. So if you went with one access point, now you're doubling, I guess, the number of cars that are still accessing Mount Carson, even though you might, I think what you're alluding to is have one single access off Mount Carson.
I'm just looking at the shape of the property and the size of the property and whatnot. Wouldn't it be possible to have one driveway?
You mean in the front, towards the bulb of the cul-de-sac?
Where, yeah, right now, the property that's there right now enjoys access off Mount Carson.
Yeah, you're saying both properties would access via
Through
that same
like
driveway.
we would do with
Wide
a
the
commercial
driveway
property.
bit. But I would argue that will increase the access still going onto Mount Carson, even though it's via the same point. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know if the director has any comment.
You know, Stefan, not something. I know it's not something we would ordinarily do, but is it something we could have entertained or?
Yeah, Your Worship, yes, you can. I agree with your comment in terms of having a joint access, but I think it's exactly as Councillor Aker has kind of described, that you will have more cars than accessing onto Mount Carson access at that Mount Carson Avenue at that access point. But secondly, I think if Council did approve a dwelling that really orients and has access onto Mount Carson Avenue, there is the property just below that, which is in. While there's not a home there, there's a large parcel there that I'm sure we would be receiving an application for development, again orienting onto Mount Carson Avenue. And we have had in the past across the on the west side of Mount Carson Avenue, I think at least 2 applications where they wanted to have the part of the lot subdivided and fronting and orientation, and now mind you, new accesses on the Mount Carson Avenue, and council has refused them for basically the same reasons. And that's the issue, is if you say yes to this lot, then I think you're going to be opening up the potential for other development onto Mount Carson Avenue. And if council recalls, in this part of Mount Carson Avenue, this is part of the steepest part of the
Yeah,
actual
true,
hill going up.
true. It is a steep road. All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll call it. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
The next item, Your Worship, we have two, actually. It's the construction permits for the period October 15th to 29th. The residential is $46,450. The commercial is $246,700, and I would like to move both, please.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Motion carried.
That's it, Your Worship. Thank you.
That's everything.
Your development permit list.
Development permit
there?
list, there's only one.
Hang on. Here we go again. Yes, the extension combined office warehouse bay
Panther Place.
at 1 Panther Place, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
All right, that's planning. That's all the committee reports. I didn't go back to check where we started last week, so I'll just guess. We'll start with.
This is going to be a record meeting.
No, the record meeting.
Record's already surpassed, is it?
The record meeting for Mount Pearl City Council was when former Councilor Derm Connolly chaired a meeting, and it was 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
We'll never do that. We'll never do one of those. That's a long time ago. We'll never do one of those. Councilor Aker, new business.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess, well, the roundtable will probably take up as much time as the previous part of the meeting, but I only have one item, and I want to welcome the Mount Pearl Senior Blades back to the hockey season for this year. This Saturday night, they're going to have their home opener. I know a lot of us will be away, but we'll certainly be supporting and probably texting our friends trying to find out what the score of the game is, and I'd like to invite the public to come on out, support the Blades. This is part of the new Newfoundland Senior Hockey League, and I think they got as good a chance of winning as anybody else. So I wanted to mention the home opener and wish them luck. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the new structure for the league is going to work a lot better as well. I really do.
More expensive, but
A little more expensive, but that again, it's not a bad price for some good caliber hockey.
no, I mean for travel for the teams, not for the fans.
Oh, for the team it is.
Yeah, because you're traveling all over the island, whereas
Yeah.
before it was.
Yeah. No, I think our
restricted
ticket price went up as well.
Yeah.
By a dollar or
Minimally,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Your
Councilor
Worship,
Walsh.
a couple of things. First of all, it's that time of the year. In fact, the last several days we've had a bit of a chill, and already in central and western Newfoundland, unfortunately, they've been greeted by snow in the morning. In fact, I think schools were actually even closed in central yesterday for the morning. I just mention this simply because from a public works perspective, the first snowfall for us as well is also a bit of a test of our equipment, our accessories, new routes that are applied, and the attachments for the equipment. Normally, Your Worship, we get, certainly I've gotten in the last several years, more calls usually with the first snowfall than I do for the rest of the year.
The rest of the year,
combined.
yeah.
So I guess I'm mentioning it only to urge a little bit of patience with the public. Whenever we have to test that equipment for the first time, it's always a test for us as well, to some extent. We also have new operators that are coming on usually and operating equipment and doing snow clearing routes for the first time. So a little patience, I guess, is the order of the day, and hopefully we won't have to be dealing with that too soon. Hopefully it'll be well into November, December, or might I even say January before
Please God.
before we get any snow.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
A quick one. Just are the the issue we had last year with the cul-de-sacs?
I just wrote it down. I was
You
about
wrote
to
it
ask
down
it the
too?
same thing.
I was
Reversible
gonna ask
blades.
Councillor
They're
Walsh,
in and
are
they're
the
in and ready,
articulating
right?
blades up and ready to go? And I guess the first snowfall would be the greatest test of that, wouldn't it?
You know, the blades have been ordered. I think they're in. Are they all? They're all attached. Excellent. Do you want to make a comment on that, Mr. Silver?
Mr. Silver.
I was out actually the other day just making sure that our equipment was ready, and the work superintendent actually brought me through the yard and showed me the equipment's all set up. Actually, we've got salt trucks loaded, ready to go just in case, and the reversible blades have actually been installed, so we were just looking at what they've got to go through to do that, so they're installed, ready to go.
Excellent.
I don't think they're all installed, but we're ready anyway to.
Ready to get started.
I only know that I only know we made a promise to the people who live on cul-de-sacs in Mount Pearl. We had a problem that got created after 30 years. We were going to fix it in one. By God, I hope we have. That's all.
Well, and it's now without a price. We committed probably half $500,000 or thereabouts to do it, but I think as you say, the people not only on cul-de-sacs, but the people on some of the one-way streets.
That's correct.
Will be
Benefited by that, too.
will benefit tremendously by that. So it's a fair commitment, but I think people will receive the same service and a return to service that they've enjoyed for many, many years. I should mention that the only reason that was changed as a procedure or protocol was for workplace health and safety reasons. You couldn't be going in the cul-de-sac on the wrong side and asking our own drivers and operators to basically violate the rules of the road. We had been doing it, but we were cautioned, and of course we wanted to comply with that.
Yeah,
So,
well, once they knew about us, we had to change it.
absolutely. Your Worship, the only other thing I want to mention, this is actually a news release from the Regional Fire Department. This Saturday, when most of us will be on the West Coast, as you said, taking in the municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador Convention, it is Guy Fawkes Night. And we haven't had a lot of problems in recent years in Mount Pearl, but I do know that we've had some problems in the past, and normally they were related to public containers that were left uncovered. We had a fairly significant problem in one of the school zones a number of years ago because the container was left open and there was a fire in the bins. So it's just a reminder to take the precautions, particularly commercial businesses, public buildings that have the garbage containers outside, to make sure they're locked and contained. Have a look around your property to see if there's anything that could be used for fire. Again, we haven't had a lot. I'm not trying to create any alarm here because we really haven't had many issues. Quite a number of years ago, this was a dangerous night, and it seems like people have heeded the warnings, but let's be cautious at least, and particularly to commercial businesses, and have a look at the bins and make sure that they're secure.
Amen.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Tessier.
Just a couple of very quick things. I would like to have, I don't know if anybody here is prepared to do it right now, and I see that Councillor Soils is not here as Chair of Economic Development, but I was unable to attend the Best in Business Awards with the Mount Pearl Paradise Chamber of Commerce, the newly minted Mount Pearl Paradise Chamber of Commerce. I had a breast cancer or breast reconstruction awareness night to attend. But I'd like to know, did anybody have any kind of update about the big winners and how the event as a whole went with the new merge?
Why don't you give an update?
Well, the Best in Business Awards were fabulous. The Chamber of Commerce and, of course, our city staff through Economic Development, the Department of Communications and whatnot, they put together a beautiful event up there at the Reed Center. It went smashingly this year. It's no good to ask me to list for you now all the winners. I can name one or two, and then I got to leave a bunch out. But the night went really well. We also had, for the first time ever, not only was it the new Mount Pearl Paradise Chamber of Commerce, we had the Mayor of Paradise obviously in to bring greetings and whatnot. We also had all of the member towns from the Northeast Avalon Joint Council here. They actually moved their meeting time to 5 in the evening and then attended the dinner with us as our guest. And we had 16 of the 18 towns on the Northeast Avalon represented. And it was a really, really, really nice night, I have to say. And we had 180 people. And the place was full. So it was really, really good. And so now the people of Paradise have said, and the Mayor of Paradise and the council have said, well, we'll do better than that next year. So the competition still lives. But all in all, it went super well. Congratulations.
That's not a bad thing, actually.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing. Our staff and the Chamber deserve our congratulations on a
Just
job.
one
Very well done.
Quick comment, if I could.
Yes,
I'm sure if
Councillor
Councillor Stolz was here as Chair of Economic Development, she'd probably have a more complete listing, I'm sure. But the big winner, Councillor, was Hunt's Transport. They won
That's
the
right.
Business of the Year.
Business of the
They're
Year.
a long-standing business in Mount Pearl. Greer Hunt and his wife, very, very deserving. And also, I guess, and I'm glad you raised it, Councillor Tessier, I think it would be probably a little remiss too if we didn't thank Brenda Aylward from our own department in particular for her efforts on sitting on the planning committee. I know she does a lot of work with the Chamber throughout the year, but a particularly great deal of work leading up to this event. So as well,
Really
I'd
well.
like to thank her.
Went
Thank you very
super.
much.
And one last item, we had just talked about it, we alluded to it with the Deputy Mayor and yourself, Your Worship, and I, just before the council meeting started, but I wanted to acknowledge the members of Kin Canada, particularly in Mount Pearl, for their efforts with the Portraits of Honour Stop that was held at the track and field complex here last week. Dave Sofa, the artist, was actually there and spoke beautifully and eloquently about the Afghan mission. And I know that in the audience there was one mother that I know of who's 18, well, he's 19 now probably, 19-year-old son, just got back from a mission in December, who is from Mount Pearl. And of course the mural was 10 feet by 40 feet of absolute splendor and grandeur. It was just a phenomenal piece of artwork that I know took a tremendous amount of time. And it was just such a joy to be there and to be a part of that. And I think it was really important that we recognize the efforts of not only the artist and the tour and the people involved with the tour and the people in our community services department, by the way, who helped facilitate that particular evening as well. Krista Tucker in particular, I believe, put a lot of effort into it, but also the members of Kin Canada from Mount Pearl, because it was just a really prestigious and lovely event to be a part of, and I'm really glad that it was here. And of course, we have our own warrant officer, Richard Nolan, who was lost in Afghanistan, I think it was 4 years ago, and he was recognized, of course, at this event as well. So I just wanted to acknowledge everybody involved, and of course, Your Worship, you were recognized as a fabulous contributor of the success of this particular tour itself in the province, in your other life, in your day job. They were very, very kind and spoke very highly of you and your efforts to help promote the success of this particular tour and the fundraising dinner that they had that week as well. And I believe that they raised in excess of $10,000.
You shared that, didn't you, the fundraising?
I was MC for the dinner. Yeah, it was
Yes.
quite a night. Actually, it was a very beautiful night.
Well-
They had over 250 people out. It went
They were
really well. Great
They were-
entertainment, a great evening.
they were very impressed with you as a whole. So I think that that's something
wonderful.
that you should be acknowledged
Wonderful.
for as well.
Thank you,
That's it.
Deputy Mayor.
I was going to speak to the Portraits of Honor as well, because on your behalf, Your Worship, I had the opportunity
Which I
to
did
br-
appreciate.
to bring
Thank you.
greetings, and it was truly an honor for me, because I did go to high school with Ricky Nolan, as we knew him, and it was nice to see his family members there. I got a chance to speak with his uncle. His mother was in Ontario and wasn't able to make it back for it, so I'm sure she has seen the Portraits of Honor. But what I was touched by was, again, Mr. Sofa's commentary, but the number of young people. There was quite a crowd there. I mean, we had, the cadets there, and we had a little beaver group there, and Mr. Sofa spoke specifically to the young people, and he explained, the importance of why our soldiers were in Afghanistan. He did a very nice job explaining it and appealing to the young people. So to Councillor Tessier's points, it was a very nice evening, very moving, and it certainly was a pleasure to bring greetings on behalf of the city there. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, sir, very much. There being no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Aker. We stand adjourned.